Hello and welcome to the Eye on the U, the Miami Herald's Miami Hurricane Show. I'm David Wilson. I'm joined, as always, on the other line by Susan Miller-Degnan, our Hurricanes beat writer here at the Herald. Susan, after a week off of spring, we are back at it this week.
Yep,
How's it going?
it's going well. Going well.
Uh,
We're still watching whatever 25 minutes practice. Uh, 3 times a week.
yeah, we'll have
Um,
basically 2 weeks of
Twice a week.
practice in the
Twice a
books
week.
by
Right.
the time people are listening to this. Like, they'll have a scrimmage on Saturday that you won't be at, not open.
No scrimmage. No
Sorry,
scrimmage. Next week they're going to do the
next
scrimmage.
week is a scrimmage. And then once they, starting then we really get into the end of spring practice starts to creep up pretty quickly. What day is
Yep.
the spring game is what, the 13th?
April 13th. Yeah.
So
April 13th.
so yeah,
On campus.
3 weeks of practice left after this week.
Mhm.
Um as we said, they had a week off, so we'll dive. We got a couple things to hit on. We definitely want to touch on Pro Day, um, which was earlier this week, and Miami obviously has quite a few interesting draft prospects this year. Doesn't look like necessarily anyone's like a first round, certainly not a first round lock. Doesn't,
Right.
but we'll see if anyone can sneak their way up there as the process goes on. But definitely, you know, a very interesting range of prospects for Miami this year. But let's start with
Yeah.
spring practice, because that's obviously the most relevant bit of, I don't know, news information going on these days. Week 2 of practice, as we said, for you in the books, right? No more practices this week, just a couple of practices this week. What were some of what are the big takeaways, the big talking points down
I
on
I
Green
think
Tree right now?
I think some of the young receivers, Nikar,
Yeah.
um, really good. Jojo Trader, um, amazing, amazing. I'm
Hmm.
telling you,
Yeah.
one hand catches. He's so good. Ray Joseph, um, looks good. Um, they're playing. Mario is said he's going to play some guys. They're experimenting, David, which they always do.
Hmm.
They change guys around a little bit. They had Robbie Washington playing, who was down as a receiver, right? But they had him playing cornerback this week, and today he played both. The other day he was just working in corner, and he looked really good at corner. He looked good, and then he was playing both receiver and corner. The duel, I guess, between Xavier Restrepo and Mish Powell. Um, a transfer defensive back. It's been great. It's been really, really good. What else can I tell you? The quarterback, I mean, Cam Ward looks really good.
Hmm.
Reese, pretty good. Cam looks great, although he was off target a few times. Today, they have that net they set up with the targets, the squares that they have to
Yeah.
put the ball in. And today he threw the ball all the way over. And they're like reminding us, no videos of that stuff. But I think the guy's really good. It's going to be exciting to see him during the season and to see him develop and what he can do with the young receivers. So we also talked to, I did a pretty interesting story that actually wasn't that this week, and that was in today's paper. I guess we're doing this on Thursday as usual, on these two defensive tackles that transferred before this season. Marley Cook, who transferred from Middle Tennessee State, and CJ Clark, who transferred from North Carolina State. And the interesting thing is they both beat UM. We all remember the infamous Middle Tennessee State
Yeah.
game. Tyler Van Dyke threw interceptions on his first 2 passes of that game. And both of those kids, not only did they beat UM, but they both had sacks in that game. So one of them Marley Cook, I guess, got Garcia. So when he replaced Van
Uh-huh.
Dyke. So he's gone now too. But and the other interesting thing was one of them, Marley Cook, just squatted 705 pounds last month, which is the record. That was formerly held. I think you remember the Sagapolu,
Oh
and
yeah. Yep.
and who's the other one? He's gone. The other lineman. Let me see. I'm looking. What it
Was
was?
it like Justice
Oh,
Hole was
Justice.
shown?
It was
Yeah.
just all over show. Yeah, it was Justice. They did 700 pounds, and that was the big deal. You should see the video of this guy, though.
Those are
Um,
always fun. That's great off-season
my
content.
God. Yeah, I mean, 700 pounds. And
They've
we
always
talked,
got the team all around them, right?
oh my
Cheering
God.
on.
They've got the big guys were there. And Jared Harrison Hunt.
I always, I think I brought this story up on this show before, but last year, in the preseason, I went up to IMG when Miami had all those kids committed from IMG, and I didn't get up there for a practice, but they were lifting that day,
Mhm.
and Francis was. I don't know the exact number he squatted. Not as big as those numbers.
Oh,
He was a high school kid, obviously. Francis Mangoa. But
right.
the way the weight room gets excited for those big guys who are putting up huge numbers, like, it's always the end of
Oh,
the
they love it.
session and everyone gets around and kind of
David,
one
that
up
guy,
each other.
yeah, they get really pumped up. He was like shaking. His whole body was shaking. It was kind of scary, the video. But he said Marley Cook said that he also did 705 pounds in high school. So in Mississippi. So that's
There
pretty
you go.
darn impressive. That's
Well, it's
pretty
also the video that goes around during every football season is Jalen Hurts, right? In the right after he transferred to Oklahoma.
right.
And he squatted some, for a quarterback, some huge number, and like kind of ingrained himself with the team. And so yeah, those are always fun videos to watch and fun to talk about too when guys get
Yeah,
excited.
it's
Guys
kind of
guys
a
get excited to talk about that stuff.
it's totally amazing. And you gain respect immediately
Yeah.
from the rest of the guys. You gain a lot of respect. Yeah. And another funny thing is he said Marley Cook said that at Middle Tennessee State, he said, "Yeah, I wanted to do more." Well, he didn't say what. He said they would stop him. They stopped him after 635 pounds because they didn't want him to get hurt. And Aaron Fell just kept saying, "Come on, you can do it. You can do it. Do more, do more." That's the Mario Cristobal philosophy.
Yeah.
It's big, strong guys, and he's got big, strong guys, by the way.
Yeah, so I do want to talk about the freshman receivers, which we touched on a little bit last week. But you also talked to Jason Taylor this week,
Yes.
who obviously is coaching the defensive linemen. You talked to Zach Carpenter, who's the new center. You
Yes.
mentioned Marley Cook. They have to the defensive line not quite, obviously they lose
Well, they've
Leonard
got,
Taylor, but for the most part, they've got a lot of
well,
key guys back there, including obviously Ruben Bain, who missed a couple practices this week. So hopefully nothing
right.
too serious there.
Hopefully.
But the offensive line, obviously, they have to rebuild quite a bit from last year's great group. Um, I guess the let's start with the offensive line. We can be kind of quick there again. You're still getting to know some of those guys, but you get to talk to Zach Carpenter this week. Um, you know, Clearly going with kind of a similar philosophy to the one they did with Matt Lee last year, right? Get a veteran center, a guy who's played a lot, who's played that position a lot, right? A lot of times center, it's kind of like, you move a guard there at some point or whatever. What's his role? Like, I don't know, Matt Lee was
Well,
such a
he's
great personality.
totally,
Like, I'm curious.
no, this
Yeah.
guy is totally opposite.
Okay.
Nice, nice,
But
smile.
not the big brash, I don't even
I,
know if brash is the right word for Matt Lee, but
uh, I, I mean, Matt,
passionate. I mean, everyone knows the video of
oh, passionate.
the Georgia
Oh, the
Tech game,
famous.
right? That's yeah. That perfectly summed up Matt Lee. Like sometimes you see a clip of a guy and you're like, oh, that's kind of weird from that guy. No, that summed up Matt Lee. to a
And
T.
unapologetic, which he should be, because everybody else in the whole world was saying what he said.
Yeah.
Video. But uh okay, so Zach Carpenter we met today, and it was so funny because he was so quiet. David, I like very easy to transcribe.
Yeah.
I mean, he says a couple words and that's it. Then he stops. Smiling, I mean, friendly, but not does not say much. And I said something to him. I said, it seems pretty obvious that you're not very talkative or outgoing like Matt Lee. And he said, yeah, that's true. Whatever, something like that. I mean, it was crazy. He's chill. I said, really? Because I thought centers were like, raw, they've got to kind of bark instructions and get everybody in place or whatever they do. And he's like, no, I'm super chill on the field. And I think he did say, I tweeted out something about a quiet aggression. He said, so I don't, Matt Lee, it's going to be hard to listen. They're far away from us, right?
Yeah, I don't want to ask. I'm not going to make you dive into like what you've seen from the linemen because
Yeah, I mean, but
it's,
I don't.
drills
Well,
and
let's put it
they're
this way,
far away.
David. I think it's going to be tough to replace Matt Lee.
He was good too. Like, it's
Now,
not just, he obviously has the intangibles, but he's going to get drafted
yes,
in
he is.
April.
He's
So
going to get drafted. He said when he's on the field, he has a quote controlled rage. I'd say it's very controlled. I mean, we were all, we were trying to get him to talk more. So I'll probably write a little on that. Smiling, friendly. People were saying that he looks like Mario Cristobal's son or something. I don't think that. Like kind of like a Mario Cristobal clone a little bit, but I don't think so. Mario's much more talkative. Yeah, I mean, we'll have to see, but I think it's interesting. I imagine that an offensive lineman, a lot of times they're, the ones I've experienced are pretty talkative and
yeah.
outgoing and things. So this should be kind of interesting. We'll see.
Before we slide over to Jason Taylor and the defensive line, anything else stand out about the offensive line so far? Or
I mean,
have you
Jalen
saw-
Rivers
yeah,
is
he's the
definitely
guy now. Like,
he's the guy. He is totally the
who
leader.
knows? Maybe Francis will
And
take a huge leap and be the best guy on that line, but at least in terms of leadership and all that
oh
kind of stuff,
no,
Jalen's the guy.
I'm not sure if that's true. I don't know.
I don't know
mean,
either. I mean, he's but
he's
I'll never rule out a big jump from freshman to sophomore year with a high level talent. So
for sure. And Jalen is not going to move. They want to keep
no,
him
definitely, he's
at
definitely gonna be the left
left
tackle,
tackle. They did not want to move
barring
him
an injury
forward.
that like reshuffles things.
Yeah, and I mean, remember Francis is not here,
Right.
nor is his. I think they might have both had shoulder surgery. Francis and Kiko, his brother, linebacker. So they're not at practice. So it gets younger guys opportunities. And no, I think the O-line's going to be good. I do think a big question is how is it going to be with a couple new guys? So the center and
Yeah.
and then the other thing is what else can I tell you about the offensive line? I don't know. I think they'll be good again. I think they're going to be really good again.
Yeah, I'm at the point where I feel like with Mario and Mirabal, that they're just gonna be at least pretty good every year. I mean, we
Yes.
saw it even in year one, as bad as they were in year one, the offensive line was not a problem. And they were starting at like, Inez Cooper has become a really good offensive lineman, but was like a major kind of project freshman.
Oh, but he's good. By the way, Inez Cooper, I don't think I told you this. cut his hair off. He shaved
Oh
his.
yeah, I think we talked
Right.
about that
Did we talk
last
about that?
time.
Yeah, he looks really clean cut now. And he's really funny. He was talking trash talk at the end of the field the other day. What they were doing one-on-one, with the with receivers and the DBs, and he was like going on and on and on and on by himself on one end of the field screaming. I don't know what the hell he was doing, but it was kind of funny. Anyway,
Um,
I like him.
as for the defensive line, you touched on Marley Cook, Ruben Bain being out, obviously a bummer, but
Yeah.
as long as he's healthy, like
Uh, yeah,
no need to
well,
worry. Like
let's hope. I never
yeah,
know
we
what
you
to
don't know.
worry because they always
Long
say everything's
yeah,
minor.
long way to go to
And
the season. But you talked to Jason Taylor today.
and
Um,
also Akeem Mesidor, his returning. I don't think he started practicing on Green Tree yet, but he's kind of, we've seen him for a couple days, and
mhm.
they haven't said what it is, but all last season he only played in 3 games and he had a foot injury, and he's so good. But yeah, but go ahead. I could tell you about some of the linemen, but let's talk about Jason.
Yeah, I want to because he's obviously one of the big, honestly, kind of like one of the biggest stars in the program. But a guy who is an assistant coach, just only gets so many chances to talk to him. His
Yeah,
son Isaiah Taylor is now in the program too, as a safety. Um, what is this? Probably only the like third time you've gotten to talk to Jason Taylor, maybe since he took
yeah,
over,
not,
something like that. Just
not
but I mean, so it's always a big day when you get to talk to him. What were the big
well.
takeaways from
The big
his?
take, what I led my story
Yeah, we
with.
can talk about the Isaiah story first, and then
Oh
maybe get into
yeah,
some other
that
stuff.
well, he said that he said they're doing well. They have to keep, the same old spiel that the coaches always say. They have to keep improving. They have to they have to go hard from the beginning to the end now. But he said that he was walking past the safeties and Coach Guidry, and he said he saw his son Isaiah make a mistake. And he said, I jumped his butt a little bit. He said, not bad, but he made a mistake. I happened to be in the area. So, like I said, I'm an equal opportunity coach. And I guess but then he talked about how he always has to remember, he writes down every day that he writes down, this is somebody on the script. He writes, this is somebody else's son, that he's coaching. So we asked him about that. And he talked about how coaches can get very frustrated and get emotional. And he talked about different styles of coaching. I think he's a little of each. I think he gets pretty intense, but he's also very communicative. I think he explains things really well. And
Hmm.
he says that sometimes some of the coaches get very fiery and yell and use words that they don't teach their sons. Other guys don't. So he said that when he feels like he's getting really frustrated, um, and that you have to kind of remember, that's what he was saying, that this is somebody, how would you want somebody to deal with your son? And that's when he talked about Isaiah and that he got on his son today. But uh he's I think I'd love to have him as a coach if I were a defensive lineman. I
Uh,
mean, the guy has to be a great coach. He talked about Ruben Bain
yeah,
in detail. And he said that the guy was just, he said he was born with an edge. I mean, that he's just he said he makes Jason Taylor rush go faster between drills or whatever. It's pretty funny because he wants to do so much and he wants to improve so much. And Ruben Bain must be like 1 in a million, David.
yeah. I
He
think
must be 1 in a million. I mean it.
he
I
didn't
mean,
even practice. I mean, we joke that we talk about Ruben Bain on every single episode, and he didn't even practice this week. And of course, we can't stop talking about him. I think the
yeah.
thing with him, it's the combination of he's really, really, really good, and he's got like all the intangibles, right? He's like, I
Oh my
mean,
God.
like the personality. He's a good student, right? Made the honor roll, and
Exactly. That's what
he's
you're,
got like an interesting it's not like, I don't want to like throw shade at any majors. Some of
what's
them
it,
like a
theater?
journalism
Theater?
major,
Yeah.
visual arts. He's a
Oh, visual.
photography major,
Oh,
a
photography,
photography
right.
student. Um,
So cool.
um, so, and then also the fact, I mean, again, you look at him, he's big, obviously, but when he was
But
a recruit, the reason he wasn't a 5-star is because he's only 6'1" or whatever, right?
exactly, because he wasn't big enough. He
Yeah,
wasn't,
so it's like he's not the guy. I think most coaches, the thing they hate most is a guy who has all the physical tools in the world unless they go to waste. And he's a guy who is not that he lacks physical tools, he's got a lot of incredible athletic traits, but he's making the very most out of everything
he isn't.
he
Apparently,
has.
he's super strong.
Yeah.
I mean, I got like the
Yeah,
line,
and
the offensive lineman, goes
yeah,
up against,
I
they're
don't
like,
even know.
oh,
Like I'm sure he puts up crazy numbers in the weight room too, but they're not. You never hear about him being the guy who's got. But everyone says it's just that like, it's football strength, right? It's that like the. It's not just weightlifting; it's the force with which the velocity with which he punches and all that kind of stuff. Um,
right.
so
And
uh,
Jason said that he said that he knows that this season, I mean, this guy's gonna get, he's gonna, he's gonna get double teamed or
yeah,
whatever. He's gonna get size. He's gonna get attention from other teams, and he's not gonna sneak up on anyone.
yeah, yeah. I mean,
So,
if he doesn't improve at all in the next 2 years, he would still have a chance to be like a first round pick. But the fact that like you think that he should get even better. I mean, you look at the
oh,
trajectory he's had. He was I think he was like second team all county as a freshman at Miami Central, so he's always been very, very productive. But he's improved every single year going back to then.
yeah.
Um,
And he wants to improve
yeah, yeah.
really bad. He wants to learn
Yeah,
everything.
it's hard to
So,
improve that much if you don't want to, right? Like they go hand in hand. Other than obviously you could say anything you want. Like we could talk about Ruben Bain for days. We mentioned Marley Cook. Any of the like new guys who Jason
yes,
Taylor's kind of
Elijah,
like really spotlighted here?
I think so. Like Elijah Alston, he's an end. They call him EA. He's been playing on the first team, also at end. And uh Marquise Lightfoot is, I know he's an early
Yeah.
enrollee and a freshman, I meant, early enrollee. He's he's really good. And I think kind of what Jason said was that he's very young. He's 17, and it
Mhm.
sounded like if you read between the lines, he said he's 17 years old and he's kind of got to learn how to be on his own. He said he said he said he still has to learn about, being a young adult growing up, like checking in, going to class, coming back for meetings, doing extra things. Same thing he said we all went through. And then he said he's got a chance to be really good. So that was kind of interesting. Yeah, I did talk about Mesidor. Mesidor is great, really, really good. So hopefully he's going to get better.
Mhm.
Um, and he said that he said he said that Mesidor, he said that dude is in here all the time studying the game. He's one of the players that will drive you nuts with questions. Coach, what do we do against this formation? Against that formation? What do we do if they come out in the wishbone? And so Jason's like, I'm like, who the hell is running the wishbone in college? So he's kind of funny today. Yeah, he said he just that's another kid who's has a really, I think, good future if he can stay healthy. Um, and their tackles are again, they're going to be okay.
Yeah.
We forgot to say they also lost Branson Dean,
Yes. Yeah. They
who
lost
was
a couple important guys, but
yeah,
they were deep at that spot anyway last year, and they're even
oh, Leonard Taylor,
yeah,
yeah,
Leonard Taylor, obviously the big one. So yeah, they lose their two starting defensive tackles. Um,
right.
but they bring in, as we mentioned, some of the transfers. They were young, they were deep there anyway on the defensive line, and Marquise Lightfoot is the big freshman there right now, but we're also waiting on Justin Scott, the 5-star
Oh, wow. Yeah.
defensive tackle from Chicago, who's not early enrolling, but will obviously be on campus in the fall. So who knows if he'll contribute. 5-star defensive linemen kind of tend to, unless they're major, like, unless they need to add a bunch of weight or something like that. But those top end defensive linemen usually can kind of
And
carve out some sort of role. The obvious
oh, they have a big rotation.
yeah, right. Because
I mean,
obviously the extreme example is Ruben Bain, who ends up becoming your best defensive lineman as a freshman. But you also have like Nigel Kelly when he was a freshman. He had like 3 sacks or something that year. So defensive end's probably a little bit easier of a transition than defensive tackle just because of the size and the physicality. But
right.
you'd like to think that a guy like Justin Scott will help them in the fall and just add even more depth to that group, which will be important because they are trying to replace some important guys.
Just as Thomas Gore has been, playing a lot too. So, and I know he transferred, I guess, a year before. So I think Mario really put, emphasis on beefing up the line, on getting more linemen.
Mm-hmm.
So, not just offensive linemen.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's
linemen.
definitely been their strategy there is build the trenches and yeah,
Yeah,
it's a little bit this
I
year.
think they did. I think they did it.
Yep.
So, but I'm always wondering how they're gonna, sack wise, how they're gonna do. Just never know. I'm interested in seeing Justin Scott.
Yeah, that'll be the big story, I think, once we get into fall camp.
And yeah, it's okay.
The one other piece of news I wanted to touch on before we move and wrap things up with Pro Day is Henry Parrish hitting the transfer portal
Yeah.
after two pretty good seasons at Miami.
Yeah,
Obviously, it was Miami's leading rusher.
yeah.
A little bit of a surprise, but also not like I'm not surprised by any any transfers at this
I know.
point, especially with the way Mark Fletcher came on at the end of last year.
Exactly.
So I don't know. Do you just any
But,
other thoughts on that
well,
loss? It's a
Fletch,
loss definitely because we talked a lot about you. That's a spot where you want as many good players as you can find.
it's a definite loss. They're going to go to the transfer portal. It's a loss. I think there were some things behind the scenes with him, some things going on, possibly. I'm not. I think even and you might know this more in high school. I think there was some stuff in high school too, or at one point I had heard he was going to quit football, and this isn't recently, but he's just had some problems, I think. Uh it hasn't always been smooth for him. And I'm not sure if there were things going on in the background that we don't know about, that I don't know about, maybe at UM in detail, really specifically. And Mark Fletcher is really, really good.
Yeah.
The thing is, Fletcher's hurt now.
Yeah.
And I keep like reading on message boards about Liz Frank injury, which is not good, and you could be out for a long time. But we don't really know what it is. But so that in that respect, I thought it was interesting that he left. I don't know. I just there and they you'd think that they were going to have a zillion running backs, and all of a sudden now it doesn't look that way, which always happens with running backs. Something always happens, injuries, whatever.
Yep.
So
Yeah, it's never simple.
I liked Henry Parrish. I mean, we had the most yards, he had the most touchdowns, and I mean, Fletcher is incredible. But also I think yards per carry also. He had the highest yards per carry average. Well, I hope he does well if he goes back to his old running backs coach at Ole Miss, who was at UM
Yeah.
and then went back there. It's a crazy world. I don't know. And I never know how much NIL has to do with anything, but
Yeah.
I don't think it was that. So
All right. Let's close things out with
sure.
Pro Day, as I mentioned, an interesting draft for Miami. We touched quickly on Leonard Taylor. Obviously a very interesting draft prospect. James Williams,
Well,
pretty much as interesting a draft prospect as you will find. And then Cameron Kinchins, the big
and
one, who will probably, I would guess he'll be the first guy taken from Miami.
supposedly he's going
Um,
to be the first guy taken.
yeah,
People are
he's
saying his
he's
health,
definitely like the safe fit, and not to say like that he's just like a safe, but he's obviously really good. But
right?
Leonard Taylor and James Williams, who were the two former five-star guys in this draft, are they did not have quite as accomplished college careers as Cam Kitchens, obviously, who was an All-American, and I think have a lot just more question marks um, than Cam did. Cam really kind of answered every
Well,
question that you had for a safety.
I think it would have really helped if James Williams would have played linebacker.
Yeah, I mean we've
Eh,
been saying
Well,
it for years, right? Like,
yeah, we have been saying it, but I mean, I think because now he knows that's where people want him. Which, yes, you're right. It has been said for years. I think James Williams. I always thought he was. I was a really good talent, and he's
hmm
such a great big body, strong. I'm high on James Williams, but he's also injured now. He said they discovered a groin injury at the combine. So that's why he did not, he said that's why he didn't run
hmm
in pro day. He didn't do anything actually this week in pro day. Um, but I think I'm really interested to see him in the pros. I hope he gets drafted. I really do. Leonard Taylor to me has been the most disappointing. Now I might be wrong. I know you were super high on Leonard Taylor. I don't think he did that much last year at UM. I looked at his numbers.
Yeah.
They were not in the least impressive really for what we always heard about
No,
Leonard.
yeah. I mean, you were
I
hoping
mean,
he was going to be a 15 TFL kind of guy, like every
well,
year,
yeah,
basically.
at some point you thought we thought he's going to turn it on, but he never really did. Maybe the year before he did a little more. But
Yeah, he was very good as a sophomore,
sophomore, yeah,
but not like an All-American or anything.
I don't
So
think he did great at the combine. I didn't
yeah.
and he did it, he ran a little slower this I think 5.13 maybe or something like that seconds for the 40. I don't know what else he did, but he kind of left. He was the one guy that David, after he did stuff, he quietly split. Nobody talked to him.
hmm
So it'll be interesting. I mean, I think in the draft a lot of times teams take you based on what they think your potential is, right?
Yeah,
They they can
and
turn you
yeah,
into what you're supposed to be.
with I mean Taylor is clearly sliding because you mentioned he coupled with not
Oh,
having a super
oh,
productive junior
yeah,
year. But even in the postseason, I think coming out of the regular season, there was still a possibility that he would have like crushed the combine and could have. I don't know if he was ever going to be a first round pick after his 3 years at Miami, but we've
no,
gotten into that second, third range.
right.
But yeah, like you said, the
I,
combine performances have not been super impressive. He's obviously still going to be drafted. He is, I think, whatever team drafts him, their fans are going to be really excited because um, he's going to have some impressive highlights. And they're going to hear that he was I don't know, number 3 player in the country or whatever coming out of high school. Um, and he was, again, good as a freshman and sophomore and regressed a lot as a junior. Um,
he took
but
plays off.
yeah,
Sometimes
I
he
think
wasn't in
there's
great
some of like
shape.
that kind of the he's never been in great shape, which I think is the biggest concern. And that's the problem with with the like combine stuff is this was his chance to show like he could. All right, like now it's time to get down to business. I'm not in college
Right.
anymore. And I think that's what I think everyone was kind of waiting for him to maybe show that okay, like he was, tantalizing throughout college, really good at various points. Now that he's a professional, he's going to take it up another level, and that just hasn't happened. So, a little disappointing. But still, I think, as you mentioned, a lot of draft is potential, and there's I still think someone's gonna talk themselves into him as
I guess
unless to go make he's definitely gonna get drafted, as I said, but I still think like late second day, early third day would be my guess. But again, we're not in the interviews and all that kind of stuff, so you never know.
I don't, uh, I think, what do I know? I think third day.
Yeah, I mean that's definitely the
Third
safe bet
day,
right now.
yeah, I mean, the second day is second and third round. I'm not sure he's gonna go in second or third.
No.
That's a big shot. That's a big chance. Third rounders, I don't know. I know. We'll see.
Yeah. Cam, just he's obviously seems like he's gonna be the first guy taken. Probably not first round at this point. It seems like some of that buzz has died off a little bit, but
I don't
um,
think first round.
but
I don't think,
what were your thoughts? I mean, you got to talk to him, I guess, at pro day, and I don't know, just how's he feeling going into the draft? I think he's
I
definitely a
think he's
guy that
feeling good.
everyone is rooting for. So
Yeah, I think he's going to be. He's going to get drafted, and a lot of people think second. I'm maybe third. Um, yeah, thoughts are good on him. Very good. Just like I think Matt Lee's going to get drafted, but it might be towards again the third day.
yeah,
A lot of times we think
Javion
guys.
Cohen also we didn't mention him,
Oh,
but he's
Javion
another.
Cohn, yeah,
Yeah.
he was running really nicely,
Hmm.
pretty quickly, and yeah, I forgot about Javion Cohn. Yeah, he's another one that's going to get drafted. I think he'll definitely get drafted. So I think you get drafted, and hopefully not even in the sixth round, unless you're Tom Brady. You're 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 in good shape, right? You just have to prove yourself.
Yeah.
So I think Cam, Matt Lee, Javion Cohn, Leonard Taylor, I guess.
Yeah,
Yeah, Leonard
James
Taylor.
Williams. Those are
And
the five. I
yeah,
don't think I'm forgetting anyone.
they had three guys last year only.
And the
So
year, what was it? The year before they had one in like the seventh round. Like it's
one. Yeah.
they've definitely picked the. I mean, that's like there's a little bit of the Mario effect. I know these guys weren't all Mario recruits. Obviously, Cam, James Williams, and Leonard Taylor came out of high school when Manny Diaz was there, but two big transfers that are gonna get drafted. So. All
Yes.
right, I think we can close things out there. You can follow Susan on Twitter at smillerdegnan. Follow me on Twitter at dbwilson2. Um,
Tennis.
tennis, yeah, we'll both be at the Miami Open this weekend, so
Yeah.
that'll be fun. Not together, but still will be fun. And yeah, we'll be back, guys, later this spring. To keep talking about the Hurricanes.
Spring game. Are you going to the spring game?
Maybe I haven't thought about that yet.
Hope so.
It'll be fun. I like going to spring game. So someone's got to help keep stats. That usually turns into a me and Manny Navarro job. So, all right. Thanks as always for listening. We'll talk to you guys later.